Good morning, everybody, and once again, welcome to this month's webinar. Today, we're joined once again by Bob Cole with Vertical Leap. Many of you have probably heard Bob present over the years. Today, Bob is going to be showing us the add-on for Microsoft Dynamics NAV for AR and Collection Manager. As a guy who has made a few collection calls in previous life, you have to have a tool to be able to record what promises your customers have given you as far as a follow-up device, and I think that you're going to find this presentation very, very interesting. We are going to be holding questions to the end, but if you want to go ahead and submit a question or raise your hand, I'll make sure that I do call on you at the end. And once again, Bob, welcome, and please take it away.
Thank you very much, Alan. I appreciate the opportunity to show this. This is one of my favorite add-ons that we have to offer. It was developed over 10 years ago and has gone through a few changes, and there's always more things that I like to add on to make things better. So just as a point of introduction, as you can see on screen, I hope everybody can see it. Dynamics NAV add-ons is our website, and there are short movies for most of our various different add-ons, including this one. But we're going to be going into much more depth today than what is available on the website. So, and let's just try to go. There we go. Accounts receivable management. This is a subject that's kind of near and dear to most companies, because without good cash flow, it really impedes the ability to run a business. So what are the objectives of this add-on? We want to control all of the AR transactions. We want to reduce, clearly, overdue receivables as much as is possible. Improving cash flow by reducing average days to pay, and we're going to talk about that in just a second, about what's a reasonable expectation and what reducing the average days to pay means to cash flow. Primarily, what we're going to do is increase the efficiency of the collections process by automating a lot of the workflow processes involved in cash flow, rather than working from a sheet of paper that shows an AR receivables that you scribble notes on, and then you get a stack of papers and you can't find anything. This becomes an organized way to approach AR management. And we're going to increase the effectiveness of the collections process by instituting best practices. So, cash flow enhancement. What we're trying to do is substantially improve cash flow by controlling the AR. And what this means for companies, if you're a $10 million company, you will improve your cash flow by $27,000 for every day that you reduce your receivable, your days to collect in receivables. So if you can reduce a very achievable goal, reduce your days to collect by 3 days. As a $10 million firm, you'll generate $8,000. Did I lose somebody? Alan?
No, Bob, I can hear you just fine. You've cut in and out a couple times, but
my line is clicking here, and I was wondering if I'd lost the connection. Okay, so you can expect to improve your cash flow by $81,000 by just reducing your average days to collect by 3 days, which is extremely achievable. In fact, most companies can achieve far better than a 3-day improvement. So here's what we're going to try, what this tool is. The AR and Collections Manager is a specialized contact manager. The actual usage of this tool is incredibly simple. It can be learned in a matter of 5 minutes. The magic of how it works is how things are set up. We're going to generate a list of activities that a collections person needs to go through, and it will start at what's due to be done today, and it will go down through the future. We'll talk about how things get into that list, and that's really the key to the sophistication of this tool. During the contact process, the collections person is going to have complete access to every piece of information they need about the customer, including open orders, payment history, just about everything that NAV has, which are all good tools but seem to be scattered all over the place. So this will become one point of access to be able to see what's going on with with an overdue invoice and with the client in general. So it organizes huge volumes of information to make it easily accessible. Now, in addition to the AR and Collections Manager, and I'm going to touch on this kind of briefly and not go into great depth, we have another add-on that many people who work with the AR and Collections Manager also like, and that's called Easy PDF. Easy PDF is a tool that converts some 20 different documents like sales orders, sales quotes, purchase orders, posted sales invoices, etc., to PDF attachments to emails, and stores a distribution list so that you can just punch a button and create an email with the document attached and send it in seconds. There are a lot of people in the collections business who end up with issues that they need to be able to quickly send an invoice, and that's one of the reasons why we've created a combination add-on called AR and Easy. So AR and Collections Manager and Easy PDF. I'm not going to go through the Easy PDF today, but in addition to all of the base functions of the Easy PDF and the AR and Collections Manager, we added 3 functions, and we are going to look at those functions, that are not in either add-on by themselves, but if you get both the AR and Easy, we add in 3 additional functions, and we'll see what that is. Okay, so moving on, we're going to see follow-up activity, we're going to see all the information, we're going to see history of contacts all in the contact screen. So what is it that we actually display? We display a list of contacts that need to be made today, tomorrow, and next week and on into the future, however you've scheduled the next calls, and we'll look at that. We're also going to look at the rules that control when a customer contact should be made. How soon after an invoice should it be made? And that may depend on how good a customer it is and what their average days to pay are. And we can use this tool either by a single collections person or multiple single collections people with various different accounts assigned to individuals, or it can be a team with collaboration so that you can have 2, 3, or 4 collections people all working together as a team and all able to see the information. Now, the information that's going to be presented will be available only within the collections, including all of the comments that are generated, and not available to anyone else outside of the collections add-on. So now, what this tool is not just invoice tracking and following overdue invoices. What we actually call these is not overdue invoices, but rather exceptions. An exception is a transaction in NAV that does not go through the normal process of being generated, collected, or applied, and then closed out into history. It could be an overdue invoice. We treat high-value invoices differently than regular invoice. It could be a disputed invoice. It could be a partially paid invoice, because one of the things that has become evident is that any time a customer partially pays an invoice, there's a reason for it. And it's better to know that now than let it become an overdue invoice and then become a problem. It also allows you to see unapplied credit memos and unapplied cash receipts that may have been intended to be applied to an invoice, but weren't because the person posting the cash receipts transaction was more important, getting the record of the cash into the system, and had no idea what to apply it against and said they'll figure it out later. So we'll take a look at all of those different types of transactions. And for that reason, we call them exceptions rather than overdue invoices. So let's take a look at the AR and Collections Manager. We're going to look at it in NAV 2009, the role-tailored client. It is, however, available in pretty much most every NAV version from 4.0 up through 2013. Classic client, role-tailored client, whatever it is that you're using, we have a copy for it. So I am going to flip over to NAV 2009. And we're going to take a look into departments. And if you take a look under Financial Management, we've added a folder called Debt Collection. And inside the debt collection, there are lists and tasks and administration and so forth. So if we take a look at the tasks, there's a function called Generate and Update. This is the task that gets performed pretty much most every day that there's a collection person in there. What Generate and Update does is it goes out, examines the rules, which we'll look at in a little bit, and it says this is a transaction that needs to be in the exception list, and it also checks to see if transactions that are already in the list have had payments applied to them and need to fall off the list. So every day you're going to be looking for new transactions as well as looking to drop off the ones that have in fact been settled. So we're going to take a look at the Generate and Update exceptions. This is one task that's performed pretty much most every day, and you go in here. If you want, you can apply a filter and update only part of the list. Don't usually recommend it unless you're a very large company that is segmented and you only want to deal with specific accounts or specific segments of the business. So we click OK, and the system says it's going to run the report as of today, and do we want to continue? It generates up new exceptions, it applies against the old ones, and it's done. So we go back to the collections, and this can be set up. This can be set up any way you want as far as your menu items. So we're going to take a look at tasks. We did look at tasks. We're going to look at lists. So your lists are the exception list. This is the primary place that the people that in the collections part of the business are going to work. You open this up, and you have a choice. You can say, view only your exceptions, view all of the work group exceptions that you're part of, or view the exceptions of a specific rep. When we get into setup, you're going to see that we have 3 levels of representatives that can be specified. There's the first line person that is the day-to-day collections person. There is their accounting supervisor, and there is the #1 top-level person, usually the CFO. And through the hierarchy, the supervisor can see all of the exceptions for the reps that report to them, and the CFO can see anything they want. Okay, and the first level person can only see their own exceptions that are assigned to them, or the exceptions for a work group of which they're part. So we're going to take a look at the exceptions, and they're all listed. So on this screen, and let's just make this a little bit wider, you can see the next contact date, and some of this stuff has been a little old, and we'll talk about that. Who the customer is, whether it's an invoice or whether it's another document, and we'll be able to. Let's go to the top. We have credit memos, we have unapplied payments, we have invoices. And we had one customer who also dealt with worldwide currencies and wanted to have the currency code displayed so that they knew which currency they were dealing with. If there's a purchase order number or an external document number associated, it will show up, and also the remaining amount of the invoice. So you can see that this unapplied payment of $1,600 needs to be dealt with. What was the invoice date? What was the due date of the invoice? If this had been previously examined, what did the customer promise to pay on? And as you can see down here, I did one, generated one, and the promise to pay date was August 25th. So that's going to drop to the bottom. We'll talk about that whole in setup, that it's not due to be contacted until 8/29 if it hasn't been paid and fallen off the list. Okay. Now, there's a category, and there are many different categories that we have: unapplied payments, overdue, exceptionally large, extraordinary invoices, and there are several other categories as well. Also, we'll see who the last rep was that contacted them, what the customer was, who's assigned to deal with this, and if there are dimensions involved. We have the two global dimensions, which in the default database are the project code and the department code. So this is what's on the exception list. This is essentially the collection person's to-do list. Now, we really like having these payments and credit memos because there's nothing worse than calling up a customer and saying, you owe us a bunch of money, and the customer says, okay, I'll check into it, and they call you back after spending half an hour researching it and say, well, we made that payment a month ago. And then you go back and say, gee whiz, you're right, my bad, and we just didn't apply it properly. And that's one of the reasons why you really don't want to use simply an overdue invoice list, because it doesn't show you this information. So at this point, it's a whole different call when you call up and say, listen, we have a payment on our books and we don't know what to do with it. Can you help us? That's a whole different call than saying, gee whiz, you have an overdue invoice. So let's take a look and see what we're going to do with this. I will point out that if you want to, you can group this screen here by customer. So you can group by customer, and you can look at the customer data grouped. We're going to look at one. We're going to look at, oh, I don't know. Let's see. Let's take a look at, I want to make sure we have one that, well, we'll pick this one, Guilford Water Department. So we highlight the item. And by the way, this screen can be filtered so that if you want to deal with a subset of your contacts, just deal with payments. I'm going to deal today with unapplied payments, and that's what I'm going to do today. So you can filter this screen on unapplied payments or credit memos, and deal with those and get them to fall off the list. So we're going to highlight an invoice, an overdue invoice. Okay, it hasn't been contacted before. It's overdue. It's $822, and we're going to click on the exception manager. The exception manager is the screen that provides all of the information and that the collections person will be working in. It's very simple. We have all the information that you need right here on screen. It's new, and here's the original amount. No payments have been made against it. There are no credits. There are not multiple invoices from this customer. Okay, the remaining amount is $822. It's not in dispute, and it was not partially paid on time. Now, from this screen, you can go under related information, and you can see a history of the customer's history. We can see the invoice card, which with any luck, this is not, that's not an actual invoice. You could reprint the invoice, and we'll talk about going to pay. You can see all the payments and credit memos. You can also go to the customer card. You can view the customer ledger entries. You can view the statistics of this on the invoice. You can see an aging report. You can generate a statement for the customer. You can go into the credit management, the NAV credit management screen. So right from this screen, which this shows you everything that is out there, from this screen you have access to pretty much anything that you need. You have the relationship management contacts, AR comments. These are the comments that you would find on the attached to the invoice itself under the pencil. Okay, these are the AR comments. Now, in this case, since we do not have any previous contacts, we don't have any history. So after reviewing all this information, whatever it is that the person needs to, that's going to make the call, needs to feel comfortable that they understand what's going on with this customer, they'll create a new contact event. And when they create the new contact event, we hit enter, the contact number. Oh, we want to select the contact number. And this is a list of contacts that are specific to the collections area. This is not anywhere else, viewed anywhere else. You can add new contacts that are within the accounting department that don't show up anywhere else. Or you can actually copy over, if you're using relationship management, you can copy over all of the contacts from relationship management. So we're going to say we're going to contact Mr. Stewart, Jim Stewart, and now we're going to say what is the action that we're going to perform. You'll set up this list of actions that you normally perform. I've got 3 arbitrary ones. One is a telephone call outbound, one's an inbound call, and one is a dunning letter. So we're going to mark this as a call. The next field is during the conversation, one of the things that a collections person will always do is ask for a promise to pay date. So when will they pay? And this will be marked in here, and you can bring up a. So we're going to create a comment, okay? So we're going to, let's open this up. And we're going to create a comment in here. Jim promised to make payment in full next week. Okay, so next week, today is the what? The 16th, 15th. Okay, so today's the 15th. So that means he said he's going to make the payment next week. So let's say that we'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say the promise to pay date is by Friday. So we're going to say it's by Friday. Well, there's no sense in contacting him. The system's going to automatically create a next contact date so that it will resort the system that if the payment is not made, it will then become another activity to do. If it is made, it will fall off the list, and we'll talk about some of the specifics in a minute. Well, it doesn't make any difference to contact him by the 22nd if he said he's going to pay by the 23rd. So you're going to say, we're not going to contact him on the 23rd. We're going to give it a couple days to go through the mail and a day to be posted. So we'll give him to the 28th. So if the payment has not been posted by the 28th, it will then become another activity. So we've given him some time that he said he's going to make the payment, and some time that the payment gets to us and gets processed. Okay? So we click OK, and then this becomes part of the history. So there's the record of who made the call, when it was made, what time, who they spoke with, and what the promise was. And now we're going to make sure that the promise to pay date was updated. We did that already. And so we go on to the next one. Now, this is one of the areas where one of the 3 tools in the AR and Easy will show up. One of the 3 tools is that if, for example, the customer had said, the dog ate the invoice, can you please send me another one? I didn't get it. It must have gone to somebody else. Please send me another one. So on the spot, if I could open up the invoice, this was a journal entry. This wasn't an original invoice. I could go in to the invoice, punch a button on the bottom of the invoice, and in seconds create an email to Jim that attaches the invoice and says, here it comes in your email. You should have it in the next 10 seconds. And here's what the additional feature is if you do that, it will make an entry in the history here of the fact that you sent him a backup copy of the invoice. And so every time you send a backup copy of the invoice, it'll make an entry in the history, the contact event history, which is very helpful that when you open it up, you'll have a record that Jim promised to make a payment, and that we had to send a backup copy of the invoice. Okay, so we're going to click OK, and that's going to reset that item. Now, if we leave the screen, we're going to leave the screen and go back in. So we go to Lists and go back in. The next time that shows up, we'll see that that invoice has now been reset to the bottom for the 29th. There's the contact we just made. And this is a follow-up. It's already been made. So as you work through the top, if you get to the 29th and that payment hasn't been made, then this will become a to-do activity. If payment was made, it will fall off the list. It's that simple to use it. You just open up the exception list. You update the exception list each day. And then you go in and start at the top, work down through the tasks. Always set a next contact date. And if it falls off, then it's gone. And if it doesn't fall off, you have a complete history of all of the contacts. And that's how simple it is to use this tool. Now, the magic of this system is how things got into this list. And that's what we're going to spend the rest of the time on, is going through the setup. So we're going to go into the debt. Well, first thing you want to do is you're going to go in and create the representatives and their levels and who they report to and so forth. And that becomes important should something fall through the cracks and not be contacted. We want to know who whose work list should it show up on. So I only have one set up right there, but this is the important screen, the debt collection setup. This is a global setup which applies to all exceptions unless you set up a rule specific to a customer. And we'll look at that in a second. So the initial customer contact is going to be the customer master contact. It could also be the last person contacted. The default collection rep. This is part of the basic setup of the system. You must define a default collection rep so that if you haven't specified somebody else, the system knows whose list to put it into. You can always transfer it later. Do you want to allow sales reps as collections reps? Yes or no? Auto file if transfer if no action. And that's what we were just looking at a second ago. If for some reason the 29th comes and goes and the contact was not made, the follow-up contact wasn't made, the payment wasn't made, and it became at the top of the list for the person to follow up on, and for some reason they didn't. They were on vacation, they were out sick, or they left the company. So rather than let that fall through the cracks, we can say we want to automatically transfer this exception to their supervisor if in this case 7 days goes by and they have not made their follow-up call. You can set this to be whatever you want. This gives them a week to come back from vacation or get better. Clearly, you can change if you want to have this and it becomes important. You can make this 3 days or whatever you want. This field right here tells you the last time that it was polled and updated, which says it was done today on 8/15. And if any filters were set during the generate and update exceptions, that will get listed here. Now, then the question becomes, and the next few questions are going to be involving which transactions do we want to involve the collection person's time. If the payment falls below some amount, if the balance on the invoice falls below some amount, remove it from the list. Are we going to chase the last dollar? If so, you can just leave that blank. If you don't want to remove it from the list until every nickel is paid, that's fine. If you want to set this up so that it matches the automatic write-off function that is available in NAV that says that if the rounding write-off, you can set it to match that if it falls below $3, then it automatically gets written off and it gets removed from the list, the exception list. The next field is remove paid invoices after some number of days. The person who developed this add-on was a guy by the name of Charles Tuning, who's a kind of a consultant to the business software industry, not just in NAV, but across a wide variety of ERP packages, is firmly of the opinion that once a transaction gets into collections, it makes all the sense in the world to notify the person that you're working with to say, we received the payment and it has been applied and all is good with the world. We put in 3 days so that if the payment is applied on a Friday, they have through the weekend, it'll still be able to be there on Monday, that they can make a follow-up call and say, thank you very much, I really appreciate your effort. Now, I did this presentation one time for an organization in Texas that dealt with temporary personnel in the oil industry, in the oil fields. And they said that we deal with the world's largest corporations, ExxonMobil, Shell, BP, and so forth. And he said they don't care. And we maintain that it's still people that make the decision as to whether something is going to get paid or not. And it cannot hurt to just call up and say thank you for your effort. Now, on the other hand, you don't have to do that. You can leave it here. And if you leave that field blank, then what's going to happen is the next time you run the generate and update exceptions after the payment is made, it falls off the list. We recommend that you spend the time to prevent future problems. The default next contact date. In order to prevent you from forgetting to be able to have a next contact date, we give you the ability to specify a default so that something will get put in there regardless of whether you go in there and make a change or not. So you can say the default next contact is 7 days, or you can say the default contact is 14 days, whatever you want. But then the next field says, under no circumstances, our company policy says that under no circumstances can the next contact date be farther out than 30 days. So regardless of what the guy says, he's going to get another call within 30 days if he hasn't made payment. So that's up to you what you want to set for your next contact date limit. So then we go down to trigger points. Trigger points control when a transaction, an exception, gets into the list. Now, we highly recommend that when you start using this thing, if you have a lot of overdue invoices, that you start with a very large number, so that after the due date of the invoice, in this case we're looking at 60 days, is going to be the trigger point at which point it gets into the exception list. And the reason we put it at such a high number is the last thing that you want to have happen is the first time you run this, you end up with 500 invoices, that entries that you need to contact, and the follow-up date already is upon you and you haven't finished the first pass. You always want to set it high for the first pass and work it down. If you find that you have 60 days is too much, you can always set that number to be lower as you start succeeding and change that to 50 days, rerun the generate an exception, and it will generate new exceptions that didn't qualify under the 60-day. You know, obviously you want to get that down to whatever you feel is a good point. 30 days, and we're going to talk about an alternative trigger point in a little bit. Okay, so the question then becomes is, as you work this down, what is going to be your goal? At what point after an invoice is due do you want to start collections activities? It can be whatever you want. Do you want to flag partial payments? Highly recommended. As I said before, if an invoice is partially paid, there's almost always a reason for it. And rather than wait 60 days or wait even until the invoice is due, partially paid invoices will show up in the exception list, and it'll be marked as a partially paid invoice so that you can call up and say, you know, what was the issue? What do we need to do to take care of this? And it will drastically speed your transactions through the system if you flag your partially payments. And again, I showed you the reasons why including unapplied payments and including credit memos is important. Extraordinary value invoices. An extraordinary value invoice, and the definition is an invoice that is unusually large and would adversely affect cash flow if it were allowed to become overdue. Now, what's extraordinarily large is going to vary from company to company. However, and we had a couple extraordinarily large, we've set the extraordinary large value limit to be $10,000. And rather than wait for the $10,000 invoice to become overdue 60 days or 30 days or even 15 days, because as we said, this is an invoice that's large enough to adversely affect cash flow, we want to actually follow up on this before the due date. We want to be able to have it show up in the list 2 days before the due date so we can call up and make a phone call and say, you know, there's a really big invoice that's going to be due in a couple days. I'm just calling up to see if there are any issues. We haven't received the payment yet, so we just want to call up and check to see if there's going to be any issues, because we'd rather deal with them now than wait. So you don't have to have this. You can if you want. You can, if we take the minus sign away, the extraordinary value invoice, now the trigger point becomes 2 days after the due date. So you can set extraordinary value invoice trigger points separate from other invoices. I really like the idea of having a contact point even before the due date. Minimum dollars value of an invoice to contact. What is the minimum amount of an invoice that you want your collections person to have to deal with? Are you going to have them deal with $3.27? Or do you want to set a minimum amount that says if the invoice is under $100, ignore it, unless the customer has multiple invoices that consolidate to $250 or whatever the number is that you want to put in there. So a single $199 invoice is not going to show up in the exception list, but 3 of them are, or however many it takes to break through the minimum to consolidate. This is the second function that is included in the AR and Easy. And in addition to the function, the function that allows you to be able to generate and update exceptions, which are deal with overdue invoices and payments, etc., we also have added the ability to use the native NAV function called reminders. It's a tremendous function that's built into NAV. I haven't run into very many people that use it, but NAV has built in the function to be able to create 3 different levels of reminders. The first one being, gee, an invoice was due. It must have escaped your attention. Please call us if you have any questions. The second one, and you can set this up in NAV. The second one may be say, we sent you a reminder. We still haven't heard from you. Please contact us as soon as possible. And the third one can be more harsh and said, we've sent you 2 reminders, haven't heard from you, and Guido will be knocking on your door, or something to that effect. What we've added for those that have AR and Easy is the ability to say, and when you specify the time, that it will batch create reminders for all invoices that are 1 day overdue. So rather than having to go in and create a reminder, you can run this just like you run the exception, generate and update exceptions. It will generate reminders that you can batch send through EasyPDF. EasyPDF has a batch send capability, and but doesn't have the ability to generate reminders based on an invoice due date. So we've taken the ability to recognize invoice due dates, generate the batch, and send it through EasyPDF. So this is the second tool that is available to those that have only to those that have both the EasyPDF and the AR and Collections Manager. So this is the basic setup, and we're going to come back to this in a second when we talk about payment classes. Okay. That's the basic setup, but we all know that all customers are not created equal. So we can go into any individual customer we want, and we have all of those fields that we just discussed, which we can then specify what constitutes an exceptionally large invoice for this customer as opposed to the default for the company. We can also say a customer-specific due date trigger point and what that's going to be. Okay, so generally we might want to have a due date trigger point of 15 days, but for this guy, that we want to have it 5 days. So you can specify a due date trigger point that's specific to this customer, what constitutes an extraordinary value invoice, what the minimum value of an invoice is for this customer that will show up in the exception list, and the minimum to consolidate and remove if balance falls below. All of this stuff then can be set specific to the customer. We also go in here to specify who's going to be the responsible representative code. So representative. So this is how we specify that this customer goes to Bob or some other collection representative. This will look up into the list of collections representatives that you've set up. Okay? So the idea, of course, is to make, if you want to assign customers to specific reps, that would be done in the customer setup screen. Or the salesperson code, that will look into the salesperson list. Okay? So now we get into the next section, and that's payment class. What we've talked about so far in the setup is specific due date trigger points for specific customers, defaults or for specific customers. There's another way to look at this, and that is to let's see. Let's go back there and let's look at the list. Okay, rather than looking at the functions as a specific number of days after the invoice, we're going to look at a customer's average days to pay and customers who have a pretty good history, more slack than people who have on the average a poor history. So in this case, what we've done is set it up. If you want to use payment classes, don't suggest it in the beginning. I suggest that you use the setup that we looked at before, due date trigger points, to start and get things under control. But once things are under control, you may say customers whose maximum average days to pay is 5 days. We're going to give them 30 days latitude before their invoices are going to show up in the exception list. Because on the average, they're going to pay anyway, and there's no need to take that person's time. I arbitrarily set these 3 categories up. You can set up as many categories as you want, and you can set them up whatever days you want. The second one is customers that are fair payers. Fair payers means that on the average they're no more than 15 days late, and if that's the case, then they will show up, their overdue invoices will show up after 15 days after the due date of their invoice. Then we have poor payers who are on the average are more than 30 days late. They will show up in the exception list after 5 days after their due date. Okay? So now what we've done is we've given you the average days late by period, and we're going to show the matrix. Now these are the rules that we're going to use as to what constitutes average days late. We're going to change this to by month, okay? And so what we're saying is that the minimum amount of time we want to use to calculate an average is back 2 months. The minimum amount of number of invoices we need to calculate an average is 3. So if a customer doesn't have three invoices, then they won't have an average. They will simply be part of the default setup. Okay. If there's 24 months of history available, then we will use the 24 months if it's available. And now we have to make a couple decisions. Do we want to include all invoices that are overdue or only fully paid invoices in calculating what their history of their average days to pay is? We can include only fully paid invoices, or we can include overdue and not fully paid invoices, partially paid invoices. Do we want to include all invoices, or if an invoice is exceptionally late, do we want to ignore exceptionally late invoices? And what constitutes exceptionally late? In this case, we say invoices that are 180 days late are clearly a problem because they would never have gotten that far out. And we're going to simply not include them in the average because it would skew the average because there's one 180-day late invoice. Do we want to include disputed invoices? Yes or no? If the invoice is disputed and it takes time to resolve that, do we want that included in their average days to pay calculation? So all of these get decided, and then we show the matrix. And in the matrix, month by month, we can see the average days to pay for each customer. Now, the ones that have no number don't meet the criteria. They don't have 3 invoices. In fact, I know for a fact that a lot of these in the demo database don't have any transactions at all. But what this is good for is keeping an eye on trends. So if you start seeing that a customer's average days to pay trends down month by month or trends up, this will tell you that either things are improving or things are getting worse. Whatever the number is in here is the number that's going to be used as the trigger point for that group 1, 2, and 3. So if we've set a good payer to be less on the average 5 days or less, whatever the number is in here is the category that they're going to fall into that will control when their invoices show up in the exception list. So now we come to the third function, and that you will get if you have the AR and easy with the combination. When Charles showed, in fact, early in my comments, I said that a company reduction in average days to pay of 3 days is very achievable. Well, nowhere in the original program did it actually show what the overall company average days to pay was. So we added in the ability to see what the let's go back here in the payment classes, and we're going to go into not periodic activities, debt collection, payment classes, and average days late by period. We can see the company performance, the average days late by company. Okay, so you'll be able to see this. In fact, there should be a matrix for the. Yep, there it is. This becomes the average days to collect for the entire company. And let's change this matrix. We want this, yeah, we don't want this to be by day. Let's see, primary key. Anyway, so we'll set this up by month, and you will be able to see the average days late and see if the overall company performance is trending toward improvement or trending toward getting worse. So for company management, this the company performance, overall performance, becomes quite critical as to whether or not the collections activity is producing results, or is the economy just getting worse. So that pretty much goes over the functions. A quick review of this basically says that the daily usage, and we're going to go to the debt collection, the daily usage is Tasks is to generate and update exceptions. And the tasks then become, the list becomes the exception list. And that is the daily use. And again, you can reset the menus to have them grouped however you want. And this becomes the work screen for daily usage. So that pretty much concludes the operation. It's a very simple but yet very effective tool. So at this point, I think that I'm going to open it up to questions. Alan?
Yeah, great, Bob. That was very interesting. I've seen this presentation a couple times, and every time I see it, I pick up something different. I specifically like the way you can have different trigger points by payment class. So those people that always pay on time, you kind of give them a little extra slack. I didn't pick that up the last time you did this. So, as I said before, we're going to be opening this up for questions. We do have a lot of people on the call, so I'm not going to unmute everybody. But if you'd like to either type in a question, I'll be happy to read it off. Or if you'd like to raise your hand, I'll be happy to mute you if you have audio capability. Until the questions come in, once again, the pricing for this is actually pretty value priced. It's a flat $3,500 for the add-on. And then the implementation is very, very straightforward, and that is right at a flat $500. Bob is offering a 10% discount on anybody that wants to pop on this in the next 30 days. So if you'd like to have another conversation with myself or Bob and talk about really how this would be more applicable to your organization, please give me an email. If you'd also like me to send you a copy of this presentation, we did record it. I'll be more than happy to forward you a link. So let me go ahead and scan in here and see if I do have any questions coming in. Looks like I do have one question out there from Michelle. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Can you hear me okay? Hello, Michelle. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Do you have a question for us?
No, I was just asking, but you just answered it right there, if you were recording it and if you could send it to me and my colleague, because we had trouble with our GoToWebinar and we've literally only been on for 5 minutes.
Okay, great. Yeah, if you want to shoot me a quick email so I know your address, I'll be happy to send you the link. It'll be on our website here probably either late today or tomorrow.
Okay, brilliant. So have I got your website from the email on the login?
Yeah, I should be able to find.
Brilliant.
I should be able to find your information as well. So thanks for recording or for attending.
Just out of curiosity, are you in the UK or are you in the US? I guess she couldn't hear me.
I think she might have. Yeah, she's still on, but she might not be able to.
Oh no, sorry. I am from the UK. I'm from Software One UK.
Okay. I will tell you that we have this available for a W1 database, which can be easily configured for a UK set of NAV objects. This is not only US. I've sold this in Australia and the UK. I've sold it all over the world.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Looks like I do also have another question from Jen. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Can you hear us okay?
Hello?
Is this Jen?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm actually Michelle's colleague.
Oh, okay, great.
Between us both, we've been trying to get on, and like Michelle said, we've only literally just been on for 5 minutes. We're having a bit of a panic.
Yeah, that's fine.
So we're both just as keen to get a copy of the record, please.
Yeah, I'll send you that link as soon as we get this posted on our website.
Sorry, thank you very much.
You bet. And I'm scanning down through here. It looks like that does it for although I do have a hand raised for Jason. Jason, I just unmuted you. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, do you have a question for Bob?
Yeah, I did. I just, you mentioned there was the portion, regarding the Easy PDF, but we actually, my company, I'm with a company called Cat Plugs. We're currently going through an implementation from an old NAV version. We have 3.7, so we're moving to 2013.
Okay.
And I had, we also do use the reminders function that comes native to NAV.
That's great.
Okay, and I guess
I
my
love
question
that function.
Yeah, it's one of our best collection tools.
Yeah, absolutely.
That we use, and it's automated we use it as an automated function through Navision. I guess the question I have then is that, with the easy PDF package, I mean, is in this add-on, is it kind of the same thing? Is it the reminder, is it kind of the same function as the reminders that are native?
Oh, it is the reminder. We didn't change
Okay.
the reminder function in NAV. It is the reminder. And in fact, in Easy PDF, the difference between what I talked about in the AR and collections and Easy PDF is Easy PDF allows you to be able to say this person gets a reminder, this person gets a reminder. So you have to go in one by one and say register the reminder, and then it will be sent to a batch. What we added in the AR and Easy is the ability to identify who should get a reminder based on number of days over with invoices that are overdue.
Okay.
So rather than having to look at a list of people that ought to get a reminder, you can say generate them all automatically.
Right.
And it will use the reminder function that's built into native NAV. We didn't reinvent that. We're using that.
Great. Then I guess another question is, Alan, can you put me down for also send me that link?
Yeah, we'll do, Jason.
I guess because my next thing would be I'd like to at least present some of this information to my CFO, who will be probably making the final decision. I guess my next question would be, as far as pricing goes, I wouldn't be making the decision, or I don't think the decision would be made on my end until our implementation to NAV 2013 goes through, which right now is earmarked for early 2014.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if pricing would change by then. Because I could tell you that we wouldn't be installing it now. We'd be while we're going through our implementation. I'd like to bring it up as
Certainly.
I'd like to request, and they'll need to know the pricing at the time to include it in the budget or whatnot. So I don't know if
well, the idea would be that the promotional price is for the next 30 days.
Okay.
Clearly, if you're not ready to implement, and I will tell you that I have Easy PDF for 3.7. And I think I probably can dig up AR and collections because it's been around well long enough to qualify for 3.7. That if this is something you wanted to implement and then move forward, we have it for 2013. We would probably simply reinstall the 2013 objects, and there is we just had a transport tool developed to be able to migrate data.
Okay.
So if that's something that they wanted to do, other than that, if you want to get the 10% discounted price, then my recommendation would be to put the order in and take care of it, and then you tell me when you're ready to implement, and we'll do it.
Okay. Yeah, I can. I'll present that to them. Sure.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, great. And I'm scanning down through here. I think that might be everybody. So, yeah, no other questions coming in. So, once again, Bob, thank you for your time today. A very good presentation. For those that wanted the link, I will get that out to you just as soon as we can. And hope to hear from you all again next month. Thanks a lot.